CrossFit is more than just an exercise program. CrossFit is more than just doing a workout. CrossFit, to me, is a biopsychosocial approach to dealing with life. So not only do you get the physiological benefits of exercise, and let's face it, CrossFit is just organized exercise, you get the psychosocial benefits as well. What's really important to me is the group aspect of it, keeping people with their family. Now, the worst thing a therapist can say is actually, you can't go to the gym. Because for someone who goes to the gym twice a week, saying you can't go to the gym for 4 or 6 weeks is like, yeah, you're going to miss out on 10 sessions, it's not that big a deal. But for a CrossFit athlete, saying you can't go to the gym and they go to the gym twice a day for, say, 4 days a week, you're looking at 8 sessions over 6 weeks, you're looking at 48 sessions. We're not looking at 10 sessions. It's like saying you're not allowed to see your children for 2 months. It's just ridiculous. And so the first thing you've got to do is say, listen, I'm going to get you to keep going to the gym. I'm going to work with your coach to keep things going. So my end of the bargain is that I'm going to keep you with your family. Your end of the bargain is that you've got to be disciplined so that we can work together towards what you want to do, which is get back to not having to think about all this stuff. CrossFit is just like every other activity that you can do. That's number one. It has a bad rep because it seems irresponsible, but I like challenging beliefs. I like that idea that you don't have to follow the rules. I like the fact that CrossFit is defined as constantly varied functional movements performed at relatively high intensity across broad time and modal domains. In other words, you're always changing it. It never really is the same thing over and over. It's functional movements. So you don't tend to sit there and do isolation bicep curls, but you can, and you can incorporate that as part of a CrossFit workout. You're doing it at relatively high intensity, and there's lots of good research that shows that high intensity of interval training is good for you. The World Health Organization recommends 75 minutes of high intensity exercise per week. At least 2 of those sessions should be whole body strengthening, which breaks down to 15 minutes 5 days a week, which is exactly what CrossFit does. In fact, you might even do more than that. So even if it's 30 minutes 5 days a week, 150 minutes of exercise, CrossFit actually suits the World Health Organization recommendation for physical activity and their guidelines. So I don't know why it has a bad rap. I think people just don't like what they don't know, and they're willing to go to soccer and go to practice and wear that risk and ignore the fact that you may have had a compound fracture of a tibia, ignore the fact that your ankles have been sprained so many times that you can turn it 90 degrees and not sprain it anymore, but then rag on somebody for going to do something that they love, despite the evidence that we have that exercise, strength training can get people off antidepressants, it increases bone mineral density, it improves balance. There's so many good things about exercise, and yet they demonize it because it's not what they prefer to do. The research evidence is that it's no worse than going to the gym on your own, doing bodybuilding, doing weightlifting, like Olympic weightlifting, doing gymnastics, and all of it is less than training for a contact sport or playing for a contact sport. So it's just another activity that you can do with an average injury rate. The thing is that CrossFitters love CrossFit. We participate way more hours than somebody who plays tennis or goes to the gym. And then you've got to ask yourself, the rates of injury are usually per 1,000 hours participation. We're just getting to 1,000 hours quicker, so it seems like it's more. But really, the research evidence seems to be that it's average. And in fact, it was so bad for other fitness type people that a study was actually fabricated. It fabricated data to try and discredit CrossFit and increase that injury rate above average. And in the USA, that court case has gone through, and they found that the journal and the authors of the study were fraudulent in their claims and manipulating the data. One of the most common things is because it has a bad rap and because people don't want to get injured, and the reason why they don't want to get injured is because injuries mean you can't train. So they want to keep going and to training and doing their thing. They often have this belief that they have to wind everything up, tension has to be to its maximum to protect your back, switch on your core, use those lats and set those shoulders and drive those knees out and screw your feet into the ground, use your glutes. And what people do is they have this idea that, well, if a little bit of that is not good and more is better, then the harder I go, the better it is. And it's just as ridiculous as it sounds. Harder is not better. And that's the most common thing that I see. Way too much compression, so lots of joint aches and pains, stiffness. And then it's going to be your typical stuff. It's going to be shoulder strains, back strains, hip strains, knee soreness, calf strains. And it's just like every other sport, to be honest.